Recording in progress.
Shabbat Shalom. Hallelujah. Shabbat Shalom. This Shanquilla or Shanquilla Carter, One Vision Ministry. The banner you see behind me, starting something new, most know of Kingdom Dominion, 12 Sticks, and even Carter Inc. But the Watchman or Watchmen 144K movement is dealing with the 144,000. But let me go to a verse real quick and share my screen, and then I'm gonna get ready to get started right after that. But here we go. Ezekiel or Ezekiel 3:17 says, Son of man, I have made you a watchman for the house of Israel, and you shall hear a word from my mouth and shall warn them from me. Hallelujah. I work security as a day job. Well, actually a night job. I also do graphics. So a lot of my, I guess, work or things that I make finances off of deal with my eyes and visual and watching. When I came up as a young person, I was victimized a lot. And so, people, they seem to, I guess, have this notion that I have a victim mentality. I've heard that many a times. The funny thing about it is that you have times that you actually are being a victim. And I guess you can't talk about it. I haven't been a victim in a while. People do stuff, but the thing is that I have the ability now to respond, and not just on a verbal, but also a physical. I can respond, and I have to govern myself and actually not respond a lot of times when I actually desire to. I actually desire to lay my hands on people a lot of times. And because I'm such a big guy, people look at me on Facebook and they think that I'm smaller. Then they see me in person and they're like, oh, you know, I'm 6'4", close to 300 pounds. I'm not a lightweight at all. And, I've had moments where I've had to move people and they got to see that it's not just aesthetics. It's not just, what you see. It's more than that, that I have the ability to move people. I'm not a weakling. I'm not a victim. Not at all. I'm not a timid person, as people say, because I don't come aggressive a lot of times or whatever. Well, some people think that I'm brash or whatever, but still, I've never come aggressive with a lot of folks, and for that reason, they think that they could walk over me. But yet, when they get in my personal space or around me, actually, they have a whole different energy. This social media thing is not new to me anymore, but it's amazing how the dynamics of how people are so tough behind a keyboard. And you can't get drawn into it. You really can't, because otherwise you would say things or do things, and I'm not one to make threats. I'm a man of action. I'll do what I'm going to do. I don't have to tell you. I don't like to um, give a premeditated synopsis of what I'm going to do. At that moment, it happens. I don't want to sneak you or nothing like that, though. You're going to know it's happening, but, still. But I'm not a victim. And so I want to go into the text. I'm going to pray first, and then I'm going to go into the text and show. Because there's a many a times that you look at King Dawid and you could say this man was a victim. things happen. He was wronged many times. His whole father and people, his own brothers, discounted him. When they said, "Oh, show us your sons," he was left out. Samuel didn't get to see him until basically like, "You ain't got another one?" He went through all of those sons of Jesse, and eventually they came up with Dawid, but they ignored him. He was discarded and basically looked over most of the time. We see Shual was basically tolerating him and didn't care for him because he seen him as competition. And so he persecuted him and went after him. He tried to victimize him. And every opportunity that Dawid had that he could actually get revenge or he could have smoked or killed Shual, he didn't. He didn't take his victim status to say, "Oh, I gotta get revenge." He would not touch the anointed of Yah. So, man, I don't know. I'm not trying to puff up or whatever, but some of y'all just be thankful that Yah has a hold on me. Cause I be wanting to whoop some of y'all. And not saying I just know I'm gonna whoop you, but I believe I can. I'm confident, and I guess I should be humble, but Abba Yah, I thank you for this Shabbat. I thank you for this opportunity to minister. Yah, whew. Sometimes we be needing your permission to respond, your permission to fight. And that's the title of this. Sometimes I want your permission to release the hostility that's been in me, to take those memories and put them into an action, to release and just, not just vent with my mouth, but allow my physical aspects to release. But I know that's not your will at this time, but a day will come. I'm getting older, but I believe it's gonna still it's gonna be a time to fight and not just watch. I know that vengeance is yours, but you use men to carry out your vengeance. Yahushua and Caleb were up in age when they went in and handled the business. Hallelujah. Let me get to this. All right. So I'm starting off in Shemuel or Samuel, First Samuel, Aleph and 30. I've talked about this one before in a message called Give Me Back My Son, but I need to hit this again. So let me share my screen. All right. And it came to be when Dawid and his men came to Ziklag on the third day that the Amalekites had invaded the south and Ziklag and struck Ziklag and burnt it with fire. And they took captive the women and those who were there, from small to great. They did not kill anyone, but they led them away and went their way. And Dawid and his men came to the city and saw it burnt with fire, and their wives and their sons and their daughters had been taken captive. They were victimized. There are actually times that people are not playing the victim where they are actually victims, but it's all about how you respond. So let's keep going. And Dawid and the people who were with him lifted up their voices and wept. They had some sorrow over this situation. They were grievous over this situation until they had no power to weep. This tore them up. When stuff happens to you, some people say, pull up your bookstrings and just, they want you to act like nothing has happened. There are times that people are not just playing the victim, they are actually victims. Dawid and his people were victims here. And Dawid's two wives, Ahinoam, the Israelitess, and Abigail, the widow of Nabal, the Carmelite, had been taken captive. And Dawid was greatly distressed. He was victimized. For the people spoke of stoning him. He didn't have nothing to do with it. Somebody else came in and did this while they were out. And they wanted to stone him because he their leader. Because the being of all the people was grieved, each for his sons and his daughters, by Dawid strengthened himself in Yahuwah, his Elohim. Yes, sometimes you're a victim, but the thing is you have to strengthen yourself in Yahuwah, your Elohim. And Dawid said to Abiathar, the priest, son of Ahimelech, please bring the shoulder garment here to me. So Abiathar brought the shoulder garment to Dawid. And Dawid did what? Inquired of Yahuwah. He's asking for permission, saying, do I pursue this band? Do I overtake them? See, this victim is looking to be vindicated. He wants to be a part of the solution to the problem that he's having. And he answered him, Yah answered him, pursue, for you shall certainly overtake them and certainly rescue. He asked for permission to respond, permission to fight. So Dawid went, he and 600 men who were with him, and came to the Wadi Basor, where a halt was made by those who were left behind. While Dawid pursued, he and 400 men for 200 halted, who were too faint to pass over the Wadi Basor. And they found a man in the field of Mizraim, an Egyptian, and took him to Dawid. And they gave him bread, and he ate, and they let him drink water, and gave him a piece of cake of figs and 2 clusters of raisins. And when he had eaten, his strength came back to him, for he had not eaten bread nor drunk water for 3 days and 3 nights. 3 days and 3 nights. Yeah. We're just coming out of Passover, so that's significant just for the thoughts. But anyway, keep going. And Dawid said to him, to whom do you belong? And where are you from? And he said, I'm a young man from Mizraim, servant of an Amalekite. And my master left me behind, for I had been sick 3 days. We attacked the south of the Kerethites and against that which belongs to Yahudah, and upon the south of Caleb, and we burned Ziklag with fire. And Dawid said to him, could you bring me down to this marauding band? And he said, swear to me by Elohim that you neither kill me nor surrender me into the hands of my master. Then I bring you down to this marauding band. And he brought him down and saw they were spread out over all the land, eating and drinking and celebrating, because of all the great spoil which they had taken from the land of the Philistines and from the land of Yahudah. These are all David's people and some of the Philistines people. And Dawid struck them from twilight into evening of the next day. Twilight into evening of the next day. And none of them escaped except 400 young men who rode on camels and fled. And Dawid rescued all that the Amalekites had taken. Dawid also rescued his 2 wives. And there was none missing to them, whether small or great, whether sons or daughters, or spoil, or whatever they had taken from them. Dawid recovered all. Besides, Dawid captured all the flocks and herds they had driven before those livestock, and they said, this is Dawid's spoil. Excuse me. And Dawid came to the 200 men who were faint to follow Dawid, who had also left at the had been left at the Wadi Basor. And they went out to meet Dawid and to meet the people who were with him. And when Dawid came near the people, he greeted them. And all the evil and worthless men of those who went with Dawid answered and said, because they did not go with us, we do not give them any of the spoil that we have rescued, except for every man's wife and children, and let them take them and go. See, these folks is thinking about themselves, but of course, Dawid, of course, the same one that they wanted to kill, he wanted to get his people back, but he was looking out for everybody. This man, this leader, was leading. But Dawid said, my brothers, do not do so with what Yahuwah has given us, who has protected us and gave into our hand the man that came against us. Yahuwah used them to get vengeance or to restore what was taken. And who would listen to you in this matter? For as his portion is who goes down to the battle, so is his portion who remains with the baggage. They share alike. And it came to be from that day forward, he appointed it for a law and right ruling for Israel to this day. And when Dawid came to Ziklag, he sent some of the spoil to the elders of Yahudah, to his friends, saying, here is a present for you from the spoil of the enemies of Yahuwah. To those in Beth El, and those in Ramoth of the south, and to those in Yatir, and to those in Aroer, and to those in Sifmoth, and to those in Estemoa, and those of Rakal, and to those of the cities of the Yerahmeelites, and to those of the cities of the Canaanites, and to those of in Hormah, and to those in Karashan, and to those in Athak, and those in Hebron, and to all the places where Dawid had gone up and down, he and his men. Hallelujah. So I'm not done, but you see, this man and his people actually were victimized. You know, when you're victimized, it's a reality. But the problem is you can't stop there. You have to go through the situation. And how did he first address it? Yeah, he was in grievous mode, but he went and pursued Yah on the matter. He came to Yah on the matter. He prayed to Yah, or he interceded for the people with Yah. This man who's the king, a warrior, sought out Yah for permission to go back and get what belonged to him and his people. His people had basically forsaken his leadership and wanted him dead. They wanted to hold him responsible. That in itself is a key thing to me, that you can be the one being victimized, but still be held responsible. Something can happen to you, and yet all the weight of it still be put on you as is if you're to blame. You're not playing a victim, you're actually a victim, but yet still the burden still lies on you. Seeking out Yah is the answer. Because people, their compassion and their empathy is only but so small. A lot of folks, when they ain't going through what you're going through, or have not been through what they don't have any sensitivity towards what's going on with you at all. And they make it as if, oh, just get over it. Just get over it. And everything is not that easy, you know. When I went through my divorce, it was traumatizing to me. I wanted to take my own life at that time. And that was 2001. And so, of course, it's 2025. That didn't occur. Yah appeared to me. Many will say, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. But I know what happened for me. I was in the mode of removing myself, and I was allowing my victimhood to be where I wanted to stay. And in my conversation with Yah, he wouldn't allow me to stay there. He helped me through that situation. And I can talk about that situation over and over, and of course, when I do, most people, oh, you've been a victim. But I'm like, do you not hear the victory? Do you not hear that I encountered Yah? Do you not hear that he added to me years that if I would have done what I planned to do, I would not have those years? That was 2001, and this is again 2025. That was one marriage, and I'm all the way, 23 years into another marriage. Had two children at that time. I have two more. So there are a lot of things that were added to my life after that moment. So, victim, no. I'm a victor. And my race is not finished. I'm enduring to the end. But when you're enduring to the end, that does not mean that you will not have moments that you are victimized, that stuff happens. But you have to go through those things. You can't quit. You have to endure to the end. And speaking on these things and venting and having frustration and grieving, people are going to make you feel bad about you being in your moment. But the problem is you're going through it. You're not stuck in the moment, though it may seem that way, but they're only looking through their limited lenses. They don't know about your conversations with Yah. They don't know what Yah has done to get you through. Yeah, you're expressing grief. You're expressing that things are not the way you like it, but they don't know that you're seeking permission to respond, permission to fight. They don't know what type of animal, well, we ain't no animals, but they don't know what kind of rage can come out of you and what you're holding back. I know what I'm holding back. I seen the ugly side of me, and I almost lost myself in that. I know that I'm more dangerous than people will ever want to acknowledge. I know the part of me when I went basically contrary to what anybody had ever knew of me. I went from being timid to a monster. And I have to balance to not actually go back to being a monster because sometimes I desire to be that monster. The one that'll pick up somebody and move them with ease. You don't have to premeditate stuff. People have been around to see. They may not speak of it, but they've seen me in action when the monster's been released. I'm not somebody to play with, but you keep playing because, of course, Yah is in control. But yes, but best believe there are times I want to release and give people every bit of what they're asking for. I'm not as nice as people think that I am. I'm definitely not as timid as people think I am. I may not come with insults and stuff like that, but sometimes I think of insults. I'm not as nice as people think. And that's one reason why when people, had this thing that I think I'm self-righteous, I know how nasty and how ugly of a person I've been. And only righteousness I can claim is that Yah has said that I'm righteous. Because if it was on my own judgment, I see myself as unworthy. But then I see the wife that He's given me. I see the life that He's given me. And I know that He would not do those things if He did not value me. I am not a victim. Just because I share things that, show that I have empathy for what others are going through. Because a lot of times I'm not there, but I'm an empath. That's who I am. And I watch. I'm a people watcher. And so I have sensitivities to things that most people don't. That's how Yah has made me. Some of the bullying and stuff that happened to me in the youth or whatever, I think it was intentional. It was purposeful, I guess, for who I am. No, I didn't like that stuff. But now, when I was a union rep and I'm a security person, I'm a protector. That's something that's innate in me. I don't like seeing people done wrong because I was done wrong. Let me get back to this because it's not, it can't always focus on me. But of course, I'm a tool. I'm the vessel that ministry is coming out of. So of course, I'm gonna have to use some things that are coming from my life, my perspective, my vantage point, because I'm the vessel being used at this moment. It's not about me, but the message that's coming out of me is coming through me, is using and accessing my memories, my lifetime, things that have occurred with me, and using that to bring forth his word. But let me go back. Go back to the text. Get back on task. Hallelujah. All right. Sharing my screen. Some more reading to do. Let the word speak for itself. Hallelujah. All right. Shemuel Bet, or 2 Samuel 5. And all the tribes of Israel came to David at Hebron and spoke, saying, Look, we are your bone and your flesh. Their relatives, Mishpah. Formerly, when Shaul was sovereign over us, you were the one who led Israel out and brought them in. And Yahuwah said to you, Shepherd my people, Israel, and be ruler over Israel. And all the elders of Israel came to the sovereign at Hebron, and sovereign David made a covenant with them at Hebron before Yahuwah, and they made Messiah, David, sovereign over Israel. Anointed and Messiah are the same, basically same word, Masha. David was 30 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 40 years, so 70. He was 70. In Hebron, he reigned over Yehuda 7 years and 6 new moons, 6 months. And in Jerusalem, he reigned 33 years over all Israel and Yehuda. And the sovereign and his men went to Jerusalem against the Jebusites, the inhabitants of the land. And they spoke to David, saying, Except you take away the blind and the lame, you are not going to come in here. Thinking, David is not going to come in here. But David captured the stronghold of Zion, the city of David. And David said on that day, Anyone who strikes the Jebusite, let him go by the water shaft and take the lame and the blind, who are hated by David's being. That is why they say the blind and the lame do not come into the house. And David dwelt in the stronghold and called it the city of David. And David built all around from the Millo and inward. And David went on and became great, and Yahuwah Elohim of hosts was with him. Now Hiram, sovereign of Zor, sent messengers to David, and cedar trees, and carpenters, and masons, and they built a house for David. And David knew that Yahuwah had established him as a sovereign over Israel. He appointed him, and that he had exalted his reign because of his people Israel. And David took more concubines and wives from Jerusalem. And after he had come from Hebron, and more sons and daughters were born to David, he was being fruitful and multiply. All right. And these were the names of those born to him in Jerusalem: Shammua, and Shobab, and Nathan, and Shalamu, and Yibhar, and Elishua, and Nepheg, and Yaphiah, and Elishama, and Eliada, and Eliphalet. And the Philistines heard they had anointed Dawid sovereign over Israel, and all the Philistines went to search for Dawid, but Dawid heard and went down to the stronghold. And the Philistines came and spread themselves out in the valley of Rephaim. And Dawid inquired. He inquired, what is that? He sought. He asked permission, you might as well say, of Yahuwah, saying, do I go up against the Philistines? Do you give them into my hand? Does he be able to proceed and fight against these Philistines? He's seeking permission to fight against the Philistines. And Yahuwah said to Dawid, go up, for I shall certainly give the Philistines into your hand. And Dawid came to Baal Perazim, and Dawid struck them there. And he said, Yahuwah has broken through my enemies before me like a breakthrough of water. So he called the name of that place Baal Perazim, and they left their images there, and Dawid and his men took them away, got rid of them idols. And the Philistines again came up and were spread out in the valley of Rephaim. And when Dawid inquired, he sought out Yahuwah. He said, do not go up, turn around behind them, and you shall come upon them in front of the mulberry trees. So he told him how to handle it, how to go about it. And it shall be when you hear the sound of the stepping in the tops of the mulberry trees, then act promptly, for then Yahuwah shall go out before you and strike the camp of the Philistines. And Dawid did so as Yahuwah commanded him, and smote the Philistines. He fought with them, and he smote the Philistines from Geba as far as Gezer. Oh boy. Well, permission was granted. This man who had played the victim, no, he didn't play the victim. He was actually victimized. But he got to respond. He got to fight. Abba Yah, I thank you for this day and time. Your people Israel have been in this land of captivity, subjected over and over by the wickedness of this land. We are going through so much as a people. May we come together and get ready to respond, get ready to fight, to no longer be victim, but to press forward for victory, to be victors. May your will be that these men and these women that are yours begin to fight. That we start not just fighting physically, but fight mentally. We need to be in a war mindset. If we see ourselves being tolerated and then that's it, we need to exit those situations. We need to not allow our strength, our finances, our economics to support things that don't support us. Let us have a mind of unity and togetherness to see what's before us and move accordingly. It's time for us to respond. It's time for us to fight. It's a call to action. Your watchmen have been watching and seeing what's going on. It's time for the shofar to blast. And I'm not trying to tell you, Yah, how to move, but I'm asking, can we get your permission to respond? Can we get your permission to fight? this victimhood or this being timid thing is not something that I perceive is good. If I'm wrong, Yah, correct me. Show me your way. Show me your will in this matter so that I don't overstep my bounds. But I definitely am not alone in being tired of waiting to respond. We definitely want to be about your timing and not our own. So, forgive our impatience, but the disrespect, the buck breaking, and all these different things, they're taking a toll on us. No longer want to be victims to anyone, but victors. Don't want to bring forth revenge because vengeance is yours. We don't want to bring it forth for ourselves, but we want you to release us and you take vengeance through us. I thank you for this time that we have a mode and a mind as one to be ready to respond, to be ready to fight. Hallelujah. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Watchman 144K movement, One Vision Ministry, Shankuya, Shabbat shalom. Hallelujah.